My name is Rahul Sharma. I've been in the corporate America for 20 years, transforming people, transforming leaders, and ensuring that people who wants to move to the next level, they take steady steps. It's all about taking steps. We all may be great individuals, but if we have to the next level, we have to work as one team. Before we get started, a quick note. The opinions expressed here are my own and those of my guest. This conversation is intended for informational and educational purposes only. Always seek expert guidance for your unique situation. And I'm also pleased to inform you that NESDA Global is a proud sponsor for this season's podcast. Thank you, NESDA.
Ever wondered what it's like to have an offshore team working for you right here in the Philippines?
I work with a Canadian client. NESDA provides me everything from workstation, a stable internet, and HR support, and a team that feels like family.
Working with NESDA's workforce outsourcing team is fast-paced, exciting, at times challenging, but that's exactly what makes it rewarding. It's an opportunity to collaborate with people from diverse culture, gain new knowledge and skills, and be part of a team that supports clients across the globe. We are NESDA Workforce Outsourcing.
Thinking of expanding your global team? Email us at contactus@nesdaglobal.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Climb, the Confident Leader podcast, where we share stories of leaders moving from invisible to becoming an influencer. Today, I have a great guest coming in who himself is a clarity architect, a leadership coach, and an author of Finding Clarity, your guide to peace, purpose, and prosperity. He helps leaders, entrepreneurs, and creators escape confusion, break free from stagnation, and design lives that you are proud to live. Through his Clarity Catalyst Solutions framework, he has guided countless high achievers towards greater peace, purpose, and performance. Get ready for an inspiring conversation about intentional living and the power of clarity to transform your life and leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one and only David Prosper to our show. Hey, David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for that intro. That was by far one of the best intros I have. So thank you for honoring me with your kind words.
You're welcome. Before I move forward, do you go by David or Prosper? Because when I was doing my research, I noticed David, and I also noticed you go by Prosper. So for us, what do you want me to refer as?
I prefer Prosper.
Prosper. Okay. All right, Prosper. So when we were talking about this episode, you mentioned about your book. You have been into the sales background and you kindly grew up to that leadership level. Please give a gist of your leadership journey to our audience from where you were yesterday and how you came where you are today.
Yeah, it's such a great question. And thank you for like giving me the opportunity. As far as like leadership journey, it's been a beautiful tragedy. And when I say beautiful tragedy is there's been a lot of learned lessons, but there's a lot of hard moments. And I want to say the first experience that I had with leadership was when I was about uh 13, 14 years old, and I submitted my name to be in the voting process as the vice president of the youth at my church. And in that we voted, and I eventually got elected to be the vice president of the youth at 13, 14, and these individuals were a lot older than me. But the hard lessons that I learned was a lot of my friends didn't support me because they were so used to me being prosper in that capacity that they didn't want to follow. So that was my first taste of leadership, and it hurt because it taught me that not everyone who is in our circle is going to support us. So it taught me that how do I lead from purpose versus leading from popularity. So that like literally started shifting my focus. And as I continue to grow and learn, my mentors have put me under John Maxwell and Tony Robbins. And these individuals, it's like started reshaping my paradigm to focus on alignment. And
Mhm.
over the years, I realized was I'm not just good at leading, good at sales. So I started like to hone in my sales capacity.
Mhm.
And then I started leading others to sell effectively and then finding clarity. And then throughout my journey, I've been in middle management, upper management, and all sorts of leadership. And one thing that I noticed that is true is leadership, clarity go hand in hand. We
Mhm.
can't lead if we're not clear, and
Mhm.
people can't follow if there's no vision.
Absolutely. And great story you just shared. And many times people you think will help you, will support you, you would be very surprised to know they may not be the right one.
Yeah.
So just because people are in your inner circle, not necessarily they will be the one to support you. So we need to be very mindful of those inner circle, and it's nothing to take personally
Yeah.
because everyone is different. We may be thinking that they should come to support us, but we may not know what's all going on in their own life. So
Yeah.
we don't need to be judgmental about it. But the point is that you may be surprised who will come forward to support you. Not
Yes.
always the people in your inner circle. So,
Hmm.
so Prosper, you mentioned that you had that early leadership role back in 13 and 14 years of age, and then you move into the sales. You had your own thought process to moving from a sales professionals to become a sales leader. Tell us what kind of mindset shift you had to go through, specifically back then when you were all alone. You were voted because of your popularity to be the vice president, and the same people who voted for you were not there when you needed them. How you navigated towards the next path of your life?
That is such a rich question. I would say my thought process in that moment was, I need to figure this out.
Mm,
And the story that I started to tell myself was, as I was going through those challenges, this is going to be part of my story that helps someone. This is going to be part of my story that helps someone. And one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, he doesn't know me, but I follow a lot of his content. He says success leaves clues.
mm,
And I've always been curious, like if I don't understand something, what resources are out there, what access that I have. So like for me, uh being a 90s baby, we grew up on dial-up internet and I didn't have a computer at home. So I would have to walk 3 to 4 miles one way. So that's a total of like 8 miles to the library, sit at the library, watch YouTube videos on like how these leaders led and listen to their motivational tapes on YouTube and walk back home just to have access like, okay, I have the tools and there's other people out there. So I started to become a seeker of knowledge
mm.
and I became obsessed and I realized like if it's out there, then I can find it. And if somebody's done it, then I can learn it. And and that became my determination. And I had this chip on my shoulder that my friends growing up didn't believe in me. So I'm like, I'm gonna prove it to them that I'm a great leader. So that was a wrong intention that set me on a right path to becoming obsessed with how to lead.
Wow. Again, another golden nugget dropped by Prosper here is be the seeker, be the seeker of knowledge, be
Mhm.
curious, and there is always a way that you will be able to find. Maybe initially you may think that is not the right way, but probably when you review your journey, you will realize that what you did back then really shaped your life. So thank you for sharing that, Prosper. And I know you focused on sales much more in your career, in the professional career. And what I have noticed about sales, Prosper, is there are it's all a numbers game, and then people just go crazy for the numbers because numbers give them a higher W2, numbers give them the rewards, recognition. So, in your experience, why so many of high achiever sales professional or high achievers in general still feel stuck or unfulfilled? What has been your experience?
As I love that question. I would say that the reason why high achievers are stuck in that feeling unfulfilled is the process doesn't have purpose. And when things don't have meaning, it become meaningless. It's equivalent to like being super hungry and it's just like, oh my goodness, I'm starving. And then we're eating popcorn. Like, yes, our mouth are moving and we're digesting food, but it
Mm,
doesn't fill us up. And I would say the process doesn't have purpose. And once we start realigning and repurposing the process, like, what does this number mean? Because data always tells a story. So the stories the data is telling is either I'm not enough or I'm making progress. And oftentimes in a high performance ecosystem, it's you're usually not enough. We get praise for the hard skills, but we don't get celebrated for the soft skills. Like,
mm,
okay, how were you able to overcome this objection? How are you able to um, find a solution to a hard problem? How are you able to match their needs to the service versus just, okay, we looked at the bottom line of the sales and everything is important. But I believe if we start focusing and celebrating and nurturing the process with
mm.
purpose, then high achievers will start feeling fulfilled.
Absolutely. And when you gave that example, one thing was coming to my mind is when we have hunger pranks, immediately our mind tend to go and grab a snack from a pantry. And sometimes it may not be that snack, it could be just having a glass of water or maybe a glass of milk can curb that hunger.
Hmm.
But our mind asks us to do something that may not be good for us in that time. So it may not solve the purpose. And if we are really hungry, you you know the research says that snacks uh, tend to make you more hungry. So
Hmm.
you just don't stop at that one packet of chips or one packet of bread or whatever, but you keep on, your mind wants more and more. So I
Yes.
think the point that you just brought up is have a purpose. When you have a purpose, it will have a whole different meaning to what you are doing. So
Yes.
thank you for bringing that up. Now, I know you talk a lot about clarity and you introduced this clarity circle, Prosper. Can you walk us through how leaders can use this model to strengthen their confidence and intentional influence?
Yeah, in my upcoming book that comes out August 2025, Finding Clarity, I talk about the C5 model. And in the
Hmm.
C5 model, I believe every leader needs this and every follower needs this. And if a leader is trying to develop their team from taking it to the next level of evolution, like I was fortunate enough to take a business that I inherited as a general manager was producing at $20,000 a month in sales revenue. And we went from 20,000 to 60,000 to 70,000 to 80,000. And out of 12 stores, it was typically before I inherited was number 12. But when I stepped in, it was we were top five, sometimes two, sometimes one. And what changed was not just the people, but it was the process. And the process that I'm going to share with you is, I believe, what changed the game. Number one, capacity in the C5 model.
Hmm.
So expanding people's capacity, and that's essentially their ability to retain things. It's equivalent to when weightlifting, if we don't have the foundation, we can't sustain the weight. So we have to build the fundamentals. And as a former athlete, we were always taught fundamentals, fundamentals. So capacity is how much can we retain and sustain the thing that we've been given. And number two is competency.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, we don't. get to that next step because we don't know the skills that we need to get to that next step. So it's, are the people in our circle, are the people who are following us growing their competency or their skills to do the thing? And then number three is courage.
Mm,
This is taking steps of faith in that, in the presence of fear. And when we're not courageous, what happens is we play timid and we don't take risk, and we don't step outside of our comfort zone. So courage is the next thing, and promoting courage. Um, and then number four is connection.
mm.
Who are we connected to that gets us to our ideal outcome? And these are either resources, these are groups, these are communities,
Mhm.
and this is education. And then last, curiosity. I believe in order to be a person who lives in clarity, one has to be a person who lives in curiosity. And curiosity allows us to suspend what we know, to embrace the unknown, and
Mhm.
to explore the possibility of the unknown while still staying anchored to our values and our tradition, but being open to, what if I'm wrong? Or what if I am not looking at it holistically? And then through curiosity, we ask better questions, and better question leads us to better outcomes. So I believe if leaders implement the C5 model that I talk about in my upcoming book, they will start seeing their teams expand. And more importantly, they'll see their teams healthy, they'll see their teams happy. And then they're just like, okay, like their team can handle more. And where we can give our teammate more, then we can delegate more and we can lead effectively versus just managing processes.
Wow. I think that that model is so simple. It's giving a lot of clarity to me as I'm listening to that model. So, so leaders, the 5C that Prosper just mentioned, the capacity, competency, courage, connection, and curiosity. If you are looking for the clarity, look at this 5Cs, and I'm sure you will become more confident in dealing with your people. Now, for listeners, Prosper, who do not have a clue or who are very new to this clarity work, what would be your first practice or first suggestion, or what should be the first thing they should do to make sure that the clarity gives them immediate dividends in the time to come?
Yeah, great question. I would say for someone who's in that stuck state or in that fog, I would say first I want to validate your feelings. And I've been there too, and it is a real thing to know that there's something out there for you, but not know what it is exactly or how to get there. So I
Mm,
want to validate that. And the next step I would say is, who in your common spaces and places, like whether it's church, whether it's a community group, that exudes authentic confidence. And that's usually a tell sign if a person knows what they're doing, where they're going, and why they're doing it. And then I would align myself to that individual, take them out to coffee, pick their brain, ask them how they understood where they were going or what they're doing. Because I believe that relationships can be the best investments or the worst investments. So if you're stuck, find someone who exudes authentic confidence, not the arrogance that the macho person,
mhm,
authentic confidence, who graciously and generously compliments other people, who has charisma, who walks in a room and exudes radiance. That person oftentimes has clarity, at least about what they're doing. And then be curious about what they're doing, and then as you go through the cycle, and I talk about this in the book, the four cycles of clarity is the wanderer. They're in the fog, so they're just like, what's happening? I'm going through the motion. I'm on autopilot. Start asking yourself your questions like, who am I becoming? Who do I want to serve? What gifts and talents do I have? And then you move into the seeker cycle, where you're asking those questions, you're surrounding you're consuming personal development content, you're consuming good things, the music you listen to. And then the third phase of the cycle is the architect. Now you're taking all of this information that you've absorbed and consumed. And now you're starting to design the life that you want by alignment versus by default. And then you move into the last phase of the cycle, which is the flow master, where you're so convicted and grounded and anchored in your values, your boundaries, your mission, your vision, that you start to empower the next people or the next person around you. So each one reach one, each one teach one. But yes, if you're in that stuck phase, you're typically a wanderer. Surround yourself with someone who exudes charisma and authentic confidence.
Very good. So, team, if you are looking to really focus on being that person who wants more clarity, surround yourself with someone who's authentic. Don't just move around things, look at the individual, and it could be around you, it could be just next to you. So, look for that authentic individual. And Prosper, your book, Finding Clarity, it's coming out, as you mentioned, in 2025, August 25. Can you give us the sneak peek of what this book is all about and why you wrote that book? What was the purpose of writing the book?
Uh, Thank you. I'll wait for this question. I would say I I've literally been so frustrated with seeing so many successful people, like my mother before she passed. She had all of these dreams and she had all of these goals. And I remember when she was on her deathbed, she kept on saying, "I wish I did enough. I wish I did enough." And she's this Haitian immigrant who came into this country, got her green card, and she did fairly well. But I was like, my mother was so smart. She was so capable. She was so competent. Why didn't she do the things that she said she wanted to do? It wasn't a lack of information because we live in America. It wasn't a lack of resources because we had that. Um, so I seen it in her, and as she cried, I made a decision, and I was like, now on, no one around me will ever say that I wish I did enough. So it's I see all this information and I'm like, we don't have wisdom. And information doesn't lead to transformation at all. It just leads to more information. Now we just know things, but we don't do things. And Finding Clarity is a book that helps give a framework to how to do things. It's
Mm,
how to filter things, how to navigate life, not with here's the you need to do this as a recipe. Here's some mile markers, some key indicators to look at. So as you're making decisions, your decisions are based off design and not by default. And when when readers read this book, it's just like this conversation. I wrote it in a very conversational way that
mm,
I speak, and then there's a question, and then you reflect, and then I also have a clarity companion journal. So now you're just not just taking this information, you're reflecting on what's in alignment with you, what's showing up for you. And as you process your own clarity, it becomes your own life. So it's not about David Prosper writing a book, it's about David Prosper sharing a framework. And now you get to create your own framework and live a life that's fulfilling and designed. So it's them for seeing my mom on her deathbed, not having clarity and living a life by default, and it broke me. I cried all her entire funeral and even leading up to it. And I just want no one else to feel that way because I believe, like my mother, everybody should live a life by design and no longer by default.
wow. What a great purpose here. We all have a choice to live life by design or live life as it is. Choose wisely and get the copy of Finding Clarity as soon as it comes on the board because you have a choice to lead by design. So thank you for penning this book, Prosper. I'm very confident that it will give, it will remove all the chaos that revolves us. You mentioned about information. There's too much of information, and it's important for us to know that only having information will not lead us anywhere. We need
Yeah.
to use that information effectively to really make a difference. Um,
Yes.
Now, how, from your perspective, Prosper, someone who is a confused personality who's always into dilemma to decide, how that person can move into a confident person, where they should start from your perspective.
Mm. I've often pondered on that because we can get so caught up in thinking about it from the mountaintop, like I've arrived at clarity, so it should be easy. But you're asking a question of someone who's in a valley of confusion. I would say the first thing is to do meditation. And I practice meditation every day. And what meditation allows us to do is get grounded and move from the amygdala, which is our fight or flight response, to our prefrontal cortex, what allows us to reason. And I talk about that in the book as well. And when we can get into a calm state, we can make better decisions. And I'm an amateur boxer right now. And one of the things that I've learned in the journey of boxing is when my emotions are heightened, I'm usually tensed up and I'm not thinking correctly. So if someone is confused, their emotions are typically heightened, their anxiety is heightened, all these things are heightened. So decisions become ineffective.
Mm,
So getting into a calm state of mind would be the first step in walking that journey of clarity. And I want to also debunk a myth that clarity isn't figuring everything out, is understanding your next right step.
mm.
And I would say the next right step would be meditation.
Wow. Uh, it was so clear the when you spoke about this entire piece. So I'm very confident that our listeners who are in that confused stage will at least get clarity, enough clarity, what should be their next right step. So thank you. And when you were sharing this example of your initial experience of having a store which was running at 20K in a month and you moved to 70 to 90K. So a lot of our listeners are in the same boat where they are running an office, revenue based office, and they want to bring that revenue up. So all the listeners who are into sales, leadership, marketing professionals, or business entrepreneurs, if they want to bring that same amount of results, that 20K to 90K, and be one of the top region or top store, how you and your team help them to really move to that stage?
Mm. Ah, this was one of my favorite moments as a leader. It was turning a classroom into a workshop. And most training spaces and program, it's usually someone talking in the front and then the people, listening, the team listening and taking notes, and then they do some role playing here and there, and then they're just like, all right, good job, go ahead and do it.
Mm,
What we got to do as a team, which was so fascinating, I would bring my whiteboard up and I would write on it. And then we would talk about the psychology of what's happening to our buyers. And then we would humanize each buyer and understand, okay, when someone walks in the door, what are they feeling? They're thinking three things. Will they judge me, accept me, or reject me? And if we understand that proactively, then we can create an ecosystem and a space that makes them feel welcome. And just like, hey, welcome in. I'm so glad you're here. And that easily just reduces their anxiety, their fear, and it allows them to feel feel more welcome, which allows them to feel safe. And most buyers are looking for safety. And we as salespeople are so driven of uh let me overcome the objection, let me use these sales tactics, let me have these rebuttals, but we aren't thinking of the psychology of someone's well-being, which is the decision making process. And so we would talk about that as a team, and then we would role play it. And then it as a leader, you got to be excited about when your teammates like do something well. You're just like, okay, you're getting it. And then in real time. So now when people would come in, we would, all right, let's, like I broke down the formula. I was like, okay, now where in the process do you feel stuck? oh, I feel stuck here. So they started to see themselves in the process and they're like, I need to work on this versus me saying, okay, this is where you're stuck. So empowerment, education, expansion, and then invitation in the process is just like, let's do this together. So we did a lot of role playing, we did a lot of teaching, but more importantly, it was like a workshop setting. And then what I love most is making the information relatable, like
Mm,
to their lives specifically, because it's easy to say, okay, you can sell this product and or you can sell this person, and then oftentimes salespeople feel like, well, I don't have that type of money, so I wouldn't spend it. It's just like, no, think about it as I'm a person who is solving a problem and I am going to invite them in the process. I'm going to be curious about what means something to them. And I want to match that and then invite them by offering versus I'm trying to sell them. So we shifted and I got to shift the mindset of my people to move from I'm selling something to I'm sharing something and I'm inviting them to a solution. And if they walk away, at least they now know that there's a solution out there. And that literally took, I remember I had one sales associate, she didn't sell for like a month. And I was like, stay married to the process and the outcome is inevitable. And she would often say, Prosper, I'm staying married to the process and the outcome. And then she got one cell and then another cell. And then she was like, this is so easy. I was like, it is that easy. If you create an ecosystem, you find a solution, you listen with empathy, and then you invite them to the solution.
wow. And I think moving from stage of thought process of I am selling to I'm inviting people to a solution is a huge game changer. And I think most of the sales professional, that's where, in my experience, they get stuck because they're all about, in the numbers, numbers, numbers. And very rarely they think about the kind of experience they want to give to their client. Because it's all about experience. It's all about they liking you first, no matter how great your product is. But if they do not like you, if they do not
Yeah.
feel comfortable in having a conversation with you, that's not going to happen. That's not going to have that sale get converted into, or that opportunity get converted into the dollar value. So thank you, Prosper, for sharing it.
Yeah.
Now, what is the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you if they want to get you on board and help their sales team do get the same result that probably you got for your organization? How that can happen?
Great question. So I would say the first place is davidbprosper.com. And as far as social media, I live on Instagram. I'm also on all platforms, but I live on Instagram and you can find me at David B. Prosper as my handle. So davidbprosper.com and then David B. Prosper on Instagram. I would love to connect with you, but more importantly, I would love to walk alongside of you because I don't position myself as an expert in the room. I'm just a guide from the side, a clarity archetype, and your friend.
Awesome. And we will include this his handle of Insta as well as website on the show notes. So now we are towards the end of our show and we are moving to the segment, rapid fire round segment, Prosper, where we will be asking 5 questions and we would want you to respond it instantly. All right.
Okay.
You ready, buddy?
Ooh, all right, let's go.
All right. A quotation you live by.
Every day, find clarity. Every day, make progress.
Wow. What's one leadership skill you wish someone would have taught you earlier?
Ask better questions.
Hmm. Discussion. Okay. What's one daily routine you never skip?
Exercise.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning person.
Okay. If your career were a Netflix series, Prosper, what would the title of season one be?
The clarity journeyer.
Wow. That was spot on, very quick, and you really did not give too much of time in thinking. So that's what we were looking for. So thank you for being so honest and authentic, my friend. Now,
Yes.
before we we let you go, there has been a lot of golden nuggets that were dropped by you throughout the episode, Prosper. And I'm sure our listeners would have taken a lot of notes, but I will share my learnings from the show. And listeners, this is now an opportunity for you to mention your learnings from this episode. Put it in the comments, whether you're listening on Spotify or YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever you are. Please put in your comments, because that's how we know the impact that we are making. And you will be surprised that the one comment of yours can lead to prosperity to many others. So please get involved and participate in our mission. So for me, the number one was, when you are having people in your inner circle, you would be surprised that the people who are very close to you may not be the first one to help you. So be mindful of that, and keep looking at your circle. Keep investing in on the people around you. Be curious. Be the seeker of knowledge. Be the seeker of information. Don't just limit yourself. And another great thing Prosper mentioned, just gathering information is also will not do any good to you. Execute that information. Make sure that you're using that information. We all celebrate for hard skill. Very rarely we celebrate for soft skills. So as a leader, put in your routine how you celebrate the soft skills demonstrated by your team, because that will really make a difference. If you are celebrating that, they know that this is something my leader is looking for. Most often we only celebrate those numbers, those high numbers, and everyone just go by the numbers, go for the numbers. Very rarely they go to create an experience for their clients. The 5C model was a game changer, is a game changer for me. Capacity, competency, courage, connection, and curiosity. And if you are in a double state mind, if you are a confused state of mind, you want to move to clarity, the first step would be meditate. Be grounded, and that is where you will see the clarity. Well, the Finding Clarity, Prosper new book will be coming on Amazon and any place that you can buy a book in August 25. You can log in and then request for pre-order your book and get it in your bookshelf as soon as it is out. Prosper, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your experience. We are so fortunate to have you, my friend.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a fun conversation. I love it.
All right. Good luck with your book and many more success to come to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Bye.